Hello YouTube, it's time for another of these deck showcases. So this is going to be on Tokkoumaru. So, Tokkoumaru is a cool little deck that does a bit of a stride imitation, does some cool board building. Let's talk about it. So, we of course have our little ride line here that creates ourselves this toy hanger, and as well as the grade 2 Tokkoumaru. That when you ride upon it, you get to take any of your combat beasts and any of your overdrives and put them into your order zone. This is appears on first glance to be a +0 ride line, but generally speaking, you're going to be getting very good value out of it because, like, for example, like basically anytime you're putting in Enjishimaru specifically with the sort of main effects of Toy Hanger or the effect of the grade 2, you are effectively going +1 every single time you do that. Toy Hanger is one of those crazy token set orders that just gives you a shit ton of value over the course of the game. Similarly to the Queen's Fort in Al Castle gives you a ton of value over the course of the game. And there's some cool synergies we get to utilize here. So, for example, Mr. Enjishimaru calls itself out from your stationed cards, which are the units you put in your order zone using the effects of Toy Hanger and various other cards that reference Toy Hanger. It has no Vanguard grade restrictions on this, which means you can do this turn 1 going second, which is very strong. That allows us to use Muna as a draw engine, which is very strong. And we can also use Molecular Claws Dragon, which when your other units placed on rear from your order zone by a card ability, you can give this unit and that unit power plus 5k, and that allows you to turn 1 going second make 28k columns. You just have a Molecular Claws and an Enjishimaru, and you have a 28k column. It goes crazy. It's pretty good. Ridiculous early game numbers. Like, the early game capacity of this deck is very strong, especially since Hayabusa is also able to just self-revive in the early game. So you're very frequently able to form very good boards in the early game. Once you hit grade 3 is where the deck starts to fall off a bit. So if you don't get yourself in a good lead in the early game, it can be trouble. But once you hit grade 3, you start calling out whatever from your station with Tokkoumaru and going into these other 2 grade 3 forms, both of which are going to give you 3 drives. This one is going to restand one of your rears and gets triple drive. And this one is going to be Stark. You bind a copy of itself from your hand and you get to be Stark. We also have this grade 1 from the archetype, Kujakumaru, who can take any of our pieces from drop and put them back in our toy hanger, and his 10k shield from the back row, which is very good. Now, the one thing is we are kind of dependent on Muna for draw power. The deck's card advantage is just not good enough without Muna. And to fuel Muna, we kind of need a bit more soul to work with. And for that reason, I'm sorry I have to do it. It's 8 fronts again. We're doing 20k fronts and soul fronts. It's 8 fronts again. It's a triple drive deck. It's 8 fronts again. It's 8 fronts again. It's 8 fronts again. It's 8 fronts again. And the only other thing to really mention, your numbers get very large because Enjishimaru is a plus 15k, and you can give it like additional bonuses with Molecular Claws, etc. It's very easy to get to like 48k, 58k columns, like crazy numbers. We're using the new Regalis piece just because killing on your turn 3 and 4 is kind of dependent on you ripping some triggers. So even if we don't have any way to really dig for the planetary replication, it is still the best Regalis piece for this deck because we just need to kill quickly. Like, the longevity of a card like Twin Cast isn't really going to be helping us out. We just need to be able to kill quickly. And Pan's Mermia just lines up very well with this deck. We have all the energy in the world to use it. But more importantly, its on Persona Ride effect when you place it. Searches your deck for any any grade 3 or greater unit card or your set order, so you can grab Planetary with this as well. But the big thing with this card is it searches for any grade 3 or greater unit with a different card name from your Vanguard. Because of the nature of how Tokkoumaru works, during our main phase, we are able to switch what our Vanguard is. So if we need another Persona ride for the next turn, though, like, if we can't kill on turn 4, we're usually boned, but we can search for Persona ride if we need it. And more often, what you're going to want to be searching for is you're going to be like, okay, I want to go into Stark. I'll call down Panspermia. Search out the copy of Stark I need to be able to bind from my hand, and now you can do your Stark line. And that's all the basics for the deck. So we have a couple replays we're going to be going over. Let's get into that. All right, so first we have a going first replay against Leonor and Phantom. So we open with Injishimaru here, which is exactly what we want to see. We want to see this as early as possible. My two primary targets when it comes to my mulligans is I'm looking for Persona and Injishimaru. Sprat Claws and Muna are also pretty important to see early if you can find them. Also, some of these replays are going to differ a bit from the build I showed you at the start, because like I tinkered it a lot with the deck when I was doing my testing. So it is what it is. But yes. I believe this build does not have Panspermia in it yet. So yeah, I throw back everything except for the Injishimaru and the Persona ride, because those are the most important things. And I want to fish for other tools. We have an Overdrive Strike here, which isn't fantastic to see this early. We're just going to discard it because, like, worst case scenario, we have our Injishimaru's on lock. So we can use our grade 2 Bride Line to search for Kujaku, and then use Kujaku to get Overdrive Strike back in if we need to go for multiple strikes. But we have our Sporadic Claws lined up immediately. We'll throw in an Injishimaru from the hand. Is that what we did there? Yes. We have two in hand, so we throw one in from the hand. And we're just going to use the free call, get it on the back line, so that when we're able to attack next turn, we can have out a second Injishimaru for a guaranteed double front line thing with Molecular Claws as well. We draw into High Busamaru, though, so we don't really have to worry about it. Given that, I'm like, okay, I'll just go top 7 fishing, because I don't really need to care about calling out Injishimaru. It would probably be better to go for Injishimaru line, but it is what it is. But we just hit another Injishimaru anyways, don't even get punished for it. And we go for this line. You can go for a 28k column here, but I think in most scenarios, like obviously this can go awry if your opponent flips a damage trigger, but I think in most scenarios it's better. I think this 10, 15, 23 line is better, because the 23 is still asking for more than a trigger. And the 15 asks for more than a 5 if my opponent doesn't flip a damage trigger. So yeah. And since I'm so heavy on fronts, I'm always swinging Vanguard first. That's what I tend to do here. Because of the pressure, because of the implication. But they don't hit a damage trigger immediately, so we get full value out of that. My opponent tri-lanes, we're chilling because we get this free intercept off of these. Draw on the 4th Injishimaru. I forgot that happened. Yeah. And we just go into Overdrive Strike here. This column, we don't have a booster for our center, which is a bit unfortunate, but we still get 33 here. This is going to restand for what? This is going to restand for 25. So 33, 25 is like nasty numbers against the 10. It is going to be swing 28, and Vanguard is going to swing 13. So very, very nasty numbers. Yeah, they're going to PG the Vanguard. We hit a crit. We get to pass that to Injishimaru. Ask for another PG. So we ate 2 PGs there while sending our opponent to 4. Like, it's a nasty going first. Like, this strikes going first is just very, very nasty. Like, very mean. But now is the point where things can potentially get a bit more dicey for us. We don't have a Stark lined up. So it's looking like another strike this time. However, we do have our Regalis piece lined up, and we have Persona rides for days. And we should have no problem building our board. We hit a Peacock off the top 7, which is pretty good. And we get to go double Injishimaru. and we got into the Stark, which means like the double Injishimaru really works here because like if you're on strike, double Injishimaru is not super good because Injishimaru's additional plus 5k comes from either your Vanguard attacking 2 or more times or this unit standing by your Vanguard's ability. And strike can only stand one of them. So if you have double Injishimaru on strike, you're only getting plus 15 on one of them, so it's not quite as good as going Injishimaru and Hayabusa. But when you're on Stark, both of them are getting plus 15, which is pretty great. So we hit a front on that first check with Stark. No triggers on the second swing, and I believe is this just this is Aldo. Like this was going to be very tough for my opponent to live anyways, even without the Stark. But even without the Eldo, but it's OT. What do you want me to say? It's OT. Sometimes that's just how it's gonna be. Sometimes that's just how it's gonna be. Was it even possible to live this? 50. These were 258s that were going to be coming down. Yeah, I don't think this was livable either way. Anyways, yeah, I think they were dead to this regardless. But yeah. Because did they PG the Eldo Breath Swing? Yes, they PG the Eldo Breath Swing. Yeah, so they didn't take any damage from that Elder Breath breaking anything, and they were dead anyways. Okay, yeah. Moving on to the next one. Next up, we have a game against Chrono Icon. This one where I went second, as you do against a Stride deck. But this is also a good opportunity to show what this deck's going second is like because you can do some really nasty stuff with it. We draw into Elder Breath in our post-mole, which is quite unfortunate. Our opponent just did Twin Cast, get some good cards in their hand because Major Gear is a pretty good card. It's a pretty good card. So we discard one of those strikes, again with the same philosophy of we can guarantee Kujaku when we ride up to grade 3, which can get us our follow-up strike if need be, or if we damage the other copy. So we just chuck in the Injishimaru from our hand, draw a card, and we get to go Muna and Injishimaru. This is a simple 18. Also with Muna, something I want you to be aware of is there is some ruling confusion going around the last couple days where because of some changes to how Scout and similar mechanics work, we weren't entirely sure if Muna worked with Station. So when I played this game, I was under the assumption Muna didn't work. So later in the game, you're not going to see me giving Muna its extra 5k. But I want you to be aware that Muna does get its extra 5k. We have like looked at the most recent update on the Japanese side of the comprehensive rules, and Station does work with like it. Station cards do count towards your order zone count for cards like Muna. Very very important. Because Moon is a very good card, and we'd be running it regardless, but it would be a bit annoying if it wasn't also 13k booster for us. Our opponent gets a pretty solid turn 2, good tri-lane with multiple cards that will be replacing themselves to draw. So that's pretty good for them. They do make this a 23 when this does not get its extra 5k at this moment. I'm only on grade 1, buddy. But I don't feel like arguing it. I was originally going to go with Pansmeria, but it's fine. We'll just discard the Pansmeria. We get Sporadic Claws, which is a really big deal because that means we get to go Injishimaru again and then get full value of Sporadic Claws. And we heal off the heal trigger. And now we have 2 28k columns, which is crazy. Send Chrono to 4 before even gets to grade 3, which means it has to get through a whole grade 3 turns of ours before they even are able to stride, which is very good for us. And discard, we're fine to intercept with both of those because again, we're going to be able to go into Tokkoumaru and like get back whatever we need if we need it, and then we just draw into another Injishimaru anyway, so we don't even have to care. We get another Sporadic Claws, which is very, very strong for us here. Though we don't really have the board space for it because we're going to be putting the Tokkoumaru on the board. So we go Kujakumaru, put another Kujakumaru, since we already have another copy in the drop from that heal. We'd rather have that in there so that we can continue to play by ear next turn if need be, based on what the scenario is, instead of committing to something right now. Get out the Injishimaru, trigger Sporadic Claws, and go into strike. So this is going to be a 38, a 38, what is this? This will be 35 when it swings again, and this is a 31. So very, very solid numbers. Yeah, we flip a crit, but no other triggers on our strike mode. And the Hayabusa swings in. They have to take it, but they get a miracle heal there, so they do live, though normally they would have died here. Mystery Flare is a bit annoying for us, because that is some extra defense for them, and we can have enough trouble as it is killing, but because of Muna, like as you can see here, Muna provides just a ton of value for us. Like we have drawn so much off of the Munas every turn. It helps so much with our card economy, and Jushimaru just being a free card also helps with that as well. Like, how healthy our hand is very dependent on how much Muna we see, which is kind of annoying. Kind of, like, it makes it, like, the range of quality of the deck it varies very, very significantly. And if our opponent has removal in the early game and Muna is not going to have its protection, that can also be quite annoying for us, but it is what it is. But apparently we just had 3 Starks chilling right next to each other at the top of the deck because we damaged 2 Starks in a row and then top decked a Stark. So we're going to go Planetary to draw a card, and then yeah, we're going to... Do we have a way to get Stark in? No. We have the Stark available in our hand, but we don't have any way to get Stark into our order zone, so we're just forced to go for another strike. But we're in a very solid position here because what do we get? What do we see off the... Yeah, we see a heal, so we have a guaranteed trigger. Not a fantastic trigger because we won't actually heal off that, but we'll be able to get some power guaranteed at the very least. And these are really crazy numbers because of the double sporadic, pumping up the Injishimaru by an additional 10. So we're looking at 48, 58 on the additional swing. This is going to be 50. Like, even into this 18k base, these are still really, really good numbers. All of them demanding like 3 cards each. So it puts us in a really, really strong position. And we flip up front as well, and that allows us to close out the game, though I think it was cooked regardless. Yeah, this was like, what, 5, 10, 20, 25, 30, 35 shield total. Yeah, just nowhere near enough to guard, even with a miracle heal. So it's just cooked at this point. And the last game I have to show you is one against Ava. And this is another going first game for us, but this is one where we open Planetary. We also open Muna, which is always fantastic. But I want to show you, like, Planetary is just so strong. Like, I cannot express enough how strong Planetary is. Like, if you're a deck that, like, needs to be playing aggressively, Planetary is such a powerful card, even if you don't have any way to particularly dig for it. And decks like High Icon, of course, benefit very, very strongly from a card like this. Scrying every turn is just very, very powerful. So we're going first here. We keep the Planetary and the Muna. There's maybe an argument for keeping the Hayabusa, but I place higher priority on finding it in Jishimaru because it's just so strong in the early game. We draw a strike for turn, discarded for the same reason that we've discarded every single game in these games. We hit in Jishimaru off the top 7 and have an additional 1 in the hand, which is pretty fantastic. We go Planetary, and with Planetary, we're able to go, okay, we went first. We can't use it to benefit a drive check, to fish for a drive check. However, we can use it to neuter any tri-lane stuff our opponent is trying to do by fishing for a damage trigger instead, since we won't be attacking with our Vanguard this turn, which is pretty great. I don't believe... Do we actually get the damage trigger off this? I don't think we do. But they don't go for a tri-lane anyways. They rip a crit, we take 2, which is unfortunate. Also, there's an argument the last turn I should have gone play down the Muna and then call out the Injishimaru in the back row to get the additional draw. I would probably do that. I would generally recommend doing that. But we get since we already have Injishimaru set up, we're like, okay, I'll just go top 7, see what we can get. We get Kujakumaru, which is pretty good. And we have the Hayabusa in the drop zone that we're able to call out, which is also pretty good for us. Call down Luna, get out the Injishimaru. This is one with the Muna, with playing Muna as it will correctly work, and because we have planetary replication out early, this is one of the things planetary replication can allow you to do, is you can get Muna fully online earlier in the game, because planetary replication is another card in your order zone, plus the token order itself. So if you have one other card in your order zone from like Kujakumaru call in the early game, or not needing to call out whatever you put in turn 1, then you can get 3 on turn 2 and have Muna online already. And this scenario, that equals, okay, now we have a 23 column here without even seeing sporadic clause, molecular clause, sorry, which is pretty good for us. What was the top off the... it's a PG. So what we get to do here, seeing that PG, is, okay, we don't want to get rid of the PG, of course, right? But instead, we have Hayabusa Maru. So we can just go poke with Hayabusa Maru first, and then bind the Hayabusa Maru to draw the PG, and we have still, like, effectively increased our odds of hitting a trigger, which is really great. That's really good. And we get a PG to our hand. Like, it's all really, really good for us. And we drive check into another PG, which is really good. That's pretty good. We have effectively 4 PGs in the hand. Very, very nice to have against Ava, because Ava can put out some stupid numbers. And yeah, we get our Soul Front. We put an Injishimaru and a strike in from the deck. And then we get Kujakumaru off the top 7. Which is pretty damn good. We have 2 Starks in our hand, which means we're going to be able to line up a Stark turn for sure. We even get to ditch away one of these because we already have a Stark ready in our order zone. So things are looking pretty for us. We do end up having to go for the double Injishimaru. This is the one drawback of having gone for the Hayabusa Maru bind last turn. That means we don't have the Hayabusa Maru for this turn. I have to go for this line, but this is still, like, overall stronger than going for Hayabusa Maru on this turn, because the Hayabusa Marus can only get plus 5k when our opponent's only on grade 2. So we still end up with ultimately better numbers here. The one thing here is, because we don't have a booster over here, we're basically forced to decide between which of these Injishimarus we want to be only 20. Because we don't have enough boosters. We could give up on having a Vanguard booster and like get that way, but like no matter what, one of our lines is just not going to have a booster, which is unfortunate. We see a Kujakumaru off the replication. We mill it, of course. Which lets us continue the Kujakumaru conga line on our next turn. And yeah, our opponent is able to just one card the 20k Injishimaru, which is not exactly the ideal for us. That's not exactly what we want happening, but it is what it is. There's nothing we could really do about there. But every other swing is going to be tricky for our opponent. We hit the front there, as well as a Molecular Clause and Persona Ride for next turn, which is really fantastic. It's going to be very difficult for us to die on this next turn, because we have effectively 4 PGs in this hand, as well as some pretty good shield otherwise, with this front trigger and the Kujakumaru we have on the board. Yeah, we get to swing for 35 here, 43 here. Fronts are so strong. And we fish out 2 PGs there. That's in part due to a misplay from our opponent, where they didn't go for the tapping of the torrential energy researches to turn on their freezing wave. I guess they just weren't expecting us to be hitting so hard on that turn. And they also didn't go for Magnetist stuff on the last turn. But that's not important. That's not important. Ugh. But yeah, they hit Obscuride off the research lab. They only go for 15 with the Magnadus, which we were able to just intercept guard super easily. PG the Ava, because like with them at 4 and their hand pretty low, I'm very confident in my ability to kill on this next turn. So I don't mind using up 2 of my PGs on relatively small swings. Yeah. And we just go for our Hayabusa plus Injishimara line into Stark because we do not have a strike set up right now with the molecular clause set up. I really wish this worked with your Vanguard places as well. It really helped with the numbers. But that was a front that we saw off. Yeah, we see a front off of the planetary replication, and that is going to make our Stark much more threatening right away. So they're just going to take it because they know they're only taking 1 damage from this. They effectively neutralize it, but that's fine. They go for a 1 to pass here because they don't really have another choice here. And they just don't have the shield to guard another one for more than, it's like they 2 to pass that, and then they just die to the remaining 2 swings. And it's like, yeah, that's the end of the game. Yeah. So pretty good stuff. I think this deck is pretty good. However, one thing I will note, having played along with this deck, is it does have a tendency to run out of steam. Games where you don't see Muna are very different from games where you do see Muna. And if your opponent is able to stabilize after your very aggressive early game, you just always lose. You always lose. If they can get through your turn 3 on like 3 or less damage, a lot of the time you will just lose. And the Stark turns, like, their quality varies immensely by how much how many triggers you hit, which is again why we're running planetary replication, because we need every bit of help we can get on that front. Like front triggers. But this deck is still quite good. It's definitely not tier 1 status. I think it is good enough to be like meta relevant as like a rogue deck. But it's definitely not top tier stats or anything like that. But like the thing it does stronger, it does very strong. This has one of the best early games in the entire game. It's really crazy how good this deck's early game is. And yeah, that's going to be it for me. This is Hunter Surge signing off.